And welcome to Hannity. Laura Ingraham, Lou Dobbs, Austin Goolsbee, Corey Lewandowski, Herman Cain are all here tonight. But first, President Trump unveils his budget that keeps key promises like strengthening our military, building the border wall, slashing government spending by deconstructing the administrative state. And here's the president talking about some of his budget priorities. Let's take a look.
We are proposing a budget that will shrink the bloated federal bureaucracy, and I mean bloated. My administration is also following through on our promise to secure, protect, and defend that border within our United States. Our southern border will be protected always. It will have the wall. You see what we're doing with our military. Bigger, better, stronger than ever before. You see what's happening? And you're already seeing the results. Our budget calls for one of the single largest increases in defense spending history in this country.
Also tonight, President Trump, he strikes back against the alt-radical left that is once again putting the lives of you, the American people, at risk by going judge shopping. Why? To shut down the president's revised travel ban. Now, that's tonight's very important opening monologue. All right, it was not hard to see this coming. Two Barack Obama-appointed federal U.S. district judges have blocked President Trump's revised travel ban executive order from taking effect. Now, true to form, President Trump is doing what he always does, and that's fighting back. You got to love it. Watch this.
Hundreds of refugees are under federal investigation for terrorism and related reasons. We have entire regions of the world destabilized by terrorism and ISIS. For this reason, I issued an executive order to temporarily suspend immigration from places where it cannot safely occur. A judge has just blocked our executive order on travel and refugees coming into our country from certain countries.
All right, we've been saying on this show that this is all part of the radical left strategy to undermine the president, delegitimize him, in this case, cherry-picking liberal judges to rule against what are very legal constitutional executive orders. But now what we're seeing is becoming far worse because these activist judges, they aren't just slowing down the president's agenda. Now they're putting the lives of you, the American people, literally in jeopardy. Now, at this point, it is very clear the left would rather score cheap political points than listen to the repeated warnings about the risks of letting unvetted foreigners into this country. And it's important for the left to hear this because these warnings initially came from Obama-era top U.S. national security and intelligence officials that ISIS would infiltrate the refugee population. Take a look.
Would that bring in Syrian refugees pose a greater risk to Americans?
I mean, it's clearly a population of concern.
The concern is in Syria, the lack of our footprint on the ground in Syria, that the databases won't have the information we need. So it's not that we have a lack of process, it's there's a lack of information.
And that obviously raises grave concern as to being able to do proper background checks of the individuals coming into the country.
Yes.
I don't obviously put it past the likes of ISIL to infiltrate operatives among these refugees.
We can only query against that which we have collected. And so if someone has never made a ripple in the pond in Syria in a way that would get their identity or their interests reflected in our database, we can query our database till the cows come home, but we're not going to. There'll be nothing show up because we have no record on that person.
There is some fear that some of these refugees may actually be posing as refugees, but they might actually be Al-Qaeda or ISIS terrorists trying to sneak into Europe or the United States. What do you make of that?
Well, certainly that's a possibility. I mean, you can't dismiss that out of hand.
We should be conscious of the potential that Daesh may attempt to embed agents within that population.
The group is probably exploring a variety of means for infiltrating operatives into the West, including in refugee flows.
It is an outright dereliction of duty to flat out ignore what all of these officials are saying, the warnings, the admonitions to us, not to mention the list of countries in this revised travel ban. It came directly from the Obama administration and Congress, not President Trump. And to the alt-left critics of the ban, I urge them to take a look at Fox News. Reporting from last week, here's the headline. Iraqi insurgent fighter allegedly lied about identity, got through extreme vetting. Now, the investigation into this is still ongoing, but it could show exactly what President Trump and all those top Obama officials had been saying could happen to this country, that terrorists can infiltrate the refugee population coming in here. So tonight, America needs to make a very, very profound choice. Actually, it's very simple. On the other hand, do you want to sacrifice your safety over the fears of slightly inconveniencing a few people? Now, there's nothing wrong with finding out if people who want to come to this country agree with our values, constitutional rights, our principles. In fact, that should be a prerequisite before coming here. Now, it's time to put protecting your life, the life of the American people, over being politically correct. Now, we can't let the left drag us into another pre-9/11 mindset, because we've seen what happens when we let our guard down. The 9/11 terror attacks, well, it could be the only evidence the left needs to see what happens when the country is not being vigilant. 2,996 Americans died that day, and over 6,000 others were injured. We saw what happened at the finish line of the Boston Marathon bombing. Terrorists took the lives of 4 people, including 2 policemen. They injured 264 of our friends and neighbors. In San Bernardino, California, 2015, jihadist couple slaughtered their co-workers at a holiday party. 14 people dead, 22 others injured. Remember, Orlando, the Pulse nightclub in Florida, radical Islamists savagely attacking people in that club. They killed 49, injured 53 other people. Now, here's the truth. If the alt-radical left wants to continue to undermine the president's ability to keep you, the American people, safe, and if a single person dies because Trump's extreme vetting policy is being blocked, they will have blood on their hands. They own it. Here now with reaction, the editor of LifeZette, editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Fox News contributor, nationally syndicated radio host, good friend of the program. This is not a joke, because all these instances happen here. If you want to come to America, is it really, really that bad that we're going to check out that you're coming here as a friend, not a foe? Is it really that horrible to do that?
Now, Sean, you hit the nail on the head. The president's responsibility, supreme responsibility, is to safeguard our independence and freedom, safeguarding our security. And without security, our freedom doesn't mean a lot. You have to have a secure nation. And our framers entrusted the executive, the chief executive, the president, with this responsibility. The fact that we have district court judges in Maryland, in Hawaii, in Washington State, or Oregon, or California, or pick your poison, who want to, just on their own, with a stroke of a pen and a lamely argued opinion, lamely written opinion, want to just wipe all that away. I mean, I can now really understand why Judge Robert Bork believed it was probably time to circumscribe the jurisdiction of the federal judiciary, because it's gotten out of control, completely absurd in these rulings. And even if you don't like the policy of what Trump is doing, President Trump is doing, the legal reasoning is preposterous. And most serious legal scholars understand what I'm saying when I say it. Let me pick your legal
mind then, because you are an attorney. A lot of people may forget that, part of your many credentials and background. But they actually use the Establishment Clause here, which is obscene and absurd when you actually look at this. And then there was no analysis of the authority that's actually under the Constitution that gives the executive branch or the president as commander-in-chief. But we have 8 U.S.C. 1182, 8 U.S.C. 1187. The statute gives the president the authority over immigration determination, and 1157 gives the president broad authority over the refugee issue.
Yeah, entire classes of people. Right, entire classes of people can be excluded from the country if the president sees fit to do that because of any number of considerations. The statute is very clear. The Constitution, nowhere in the Constitution does it prohibit the President of the United States from doing exactly what he did. And even if this was a Muslim ban. Let's cede it. Okay, let's cede that issue to the left. And I don't substantively, but just for the sake of argument, even that wouldn't be prohibited under our constitutional understanding. That's not what the framers intended. And again, we have activist judges, both of these appointees of Barack Obama. One of them's entire experience has been in the government. The Maryland judge, which you might already have covered, Sean, was involved in the Benghazi issue. Chuck Grassley urged other Republican senators to vote against his confirmation because he was at the Homeland Security, the State Department, excuse me, during the Benghazi issue. We don't have to get into all of that, but these guys are political players. And they're making a political statement in these opinions, and anyone who cares to look at this fairly will conclude that.
All right, let me go to the issue. This is one of the strategies that was actually outlined by David Brock and his group of rich donors. But one of the strategies is, to tie the Trump administration up in the courts. Clearly, this is being judge shopped. Clearly, not only do they go, apparently the judge who issued the ban in Hawaii is apparently a former classmate of Obama's, law school classmate, but they also wanted to go to the Ninth Circuit. They're overturned about, 80% of the time, one of the most overturned courts in the country. So it makes it harder. They have this ability to tie it up. Now, I think it goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, I can't imagine, is going to go along with this reasoning. What do you think?
I think you're right. The judge shopping is something that has vexed both Democrat presidents. Donald Trump doesn't like it, but neither did Obama like it when the DACA case came up, and there was a district court judge in Texas who stopped those work permits from going forward. But again, it goes to the question of the judiciary, Sean. And I think we all focus on the executive branch, we focus on the legislative branch, and that's understandable. But right now, there are 90 key vacancies on the federal bench that Jeff Sessions, the Trump administration, those guys have got to fill those vacancies, because there is going to be extreme havoc being wreaked upon the Trump agenda. He's the president of the United States, but extreme havoc, roadblocks, monkey wrenches. There'll be frivolous lawsuits filed. Some of them will be thrown out, some won't be. And this will be a constant problem they have to deal with. They've got to fill these vacancies and get great judges in there who do not make the law, but follow the law.
All right, Laura, great analysis as always. Thanks for being with us.
Great to see you.
Appreciate it. All right, also coming up tonight, an explosive new investigative report from Sarah Carter and John Solomon of Circa News. Their reporting suggests a hacker may have been behind the communication between this Russian bank and a server connected with Trump Tower. Quite exculpatory, right? Anyway, we'll check in with them, and then later tonight.
Some of the fake news said, I don't think Donald Trump wants to build the wall. Can you imagine if I said, we're not going to build the wall? Fake news. Fake news.
President Trump says a border wall will be built, despite what the mainstream media is reporting. Lou Dobbs will react to that, and also tonight.
I don't remember the last 3 days because I've been so up.
All right, it's that time of year again. Ever wonder what happens? Your kids head off to spring break. We sent a Hannity producer this time down to South Padre Island, Texas, to find out how dangerous this might be for your children. Straight ahead.